Madonna do Carmen, aiutici tu.
And benvenuti, fellas and bellas all over the world. Welcome to another episode of the Napoli Rant. I am Raff Bizz, joined by my co-host, the Vicar of SOVS, Raffa Rispo.
Raffa Bizzarro, come stai oggi?
Tutta posta.
Tutta post.
Hello to you, sir, and hello to all of our listeners. Let's get this rant on the road. Napoli defeat the unbeaten Juve 2-1 at the Maradona, coming from behind, staying in first. Absolute, maybe second half masterclass performance. But Raffa, I'm gonna say something right now to everybody. Okay, I remember. First of all, shout out to the Discord, everybody that came through for the watch party. It was emotional. Nonetheless. But even after the game, I was like excited. I was excited. I was restless. I couldn't sit still. I was online. I was going through the social media, doing all the content, but like Raffa, man, this game, I don't know why I had. Maybe, is it the rivalry, or is it just how we looked these past, even up against Atalanta, coming from behind? I mean, the tale of two halves again. Some of this emotional drama. This game was action. I think it was just packed with emotion now.
Yeah, Ralphie, the thing with Napoli versus Juventus is, Juve fans can go all day about how this isn't a derby, this isn't a rivalry. And if that's how they want to feel about Napoli, because they do have a lot of other rivalries, they have the derbies, they have other rivals for sure, but none bigger for Napoli fans. So this is the biggest game of the season. This is if I were to equate it to American sports, this is Yankees, Red Sox. This is
Celtics, Lakers.
Celtics, Lakers. This is like, even in our sport, and even in Serie A, like it doesn't matter where Roma or Lazio are on the table, where Genoa, Sampdoria are, if they're in Serie A, Serie B, and they're playing in Coppa Italia. It doesn't matter where Milan, Inter are on the table. These are the games that you want to win every year. Like no question. Like Roma could be on the brink of relegation, but if they beat Lazio twice, then that's
good.
their season. Yeah. So for Napoli fans, and that is historically has been the way it is for this fixture. Napoli Juve, especially at the Maradona, at the former San Paolo, especially ever since they came back from, Serie C with the DELLA and all that stuff, Napoli have really, really taken this fixture seriously, no matter where they are in the table. I mean, look at last season. Where were we? About sixth or seventh at this point when we played against them, and
I think we were like equal in points too, or something.
Something like that. There was something where like, it was a win and we won, and I think we were maybe like almost close to fourth, but we were definitely not obviously last season weren't having the best of seasons. But as long as we won this game against Juventus, all is right with the world. And that is how we view it. So when you say, you were excited after the game, I mean, how could you not be? How could you not be? Especially in the fashion that it happened in. We go down. We get so many freaking clear chances at net in the first half. We had at least 4 chances. Maybe took one shot. Anguissa getting hacked all game. No call from the referee. My dad swore to God that Juve was going to get the first yellow, that we were going to get the first yellow. It actually turned out to be Juve that did. But it was one of those games where you really felt like that, like Napoli weren't getting any of the calls. And then what happens? One mistake and we get scored on, and we go down 1-0 at the half. And it's one of those frustrating games, especially coming back in the second half, doing it the way we did was just amazing, unbelievable. So even if this was another big team, like say Milan or like Atalanta, like we did last week, you'd still feel great about this kind of win. But because it's Juventus, because it's Conte's old team, because it's, the rivalry,
Mhm.
makes it that much more better, makes it
Right.
that much more satisfying.
It must have been. I think all those things combined really like just added to the emotional value of this game. I mean, we should start real quick with the ref, because I think that was a big rant that everybody had. And again, we're the show is not the type to throw refs under a bus, I mean,
Mm,
but this one really felt like, hey man, and that scares me too a little bit when I'm watching these games, like if the ref is going to condition the game a little bit. And I'm not calling
hmm
for corruption or anything like that. I don't know what's on this guy's mind, but there was some questionable non-calls, as we should say, that were going on. But we were able to persevere nonetheless and still get a result. But I was worried a little bit that they were going to give Napoli a hard time here against Juventus, especially at home. But at the end of the day, we were able to kind of overcome that. So I think it says a lot about the mentality. That's something that we do speak a lot of.
Oh yeah,
Um, and how to kind of overcome and readjust, because I mean, we'll get into the first half, but we did see a bit of a change nonetheless in Napoli for the second half. But that first half, it seemed, I don't want to say underwhelming. I don't think that's the right word, but it seemed as if we had too much emotion. Almost, we had too much energy. It felt as if like we were ready to play, we were ready to we were ready to perform, but like maybe we weren't focused, we weren't concentrated, we weren't as fluid, as solid. It just felt like everybody was packed with emotion, ready to go, but it wasn't harnessed. You know what I'm trying to say, Rafa?
right. Yeah, the first half wasn't a terrible half by any means. We lost a little bit in possession. We had four shots, we had a couple of chances, got a couple corner kicks. So, we were attacking. It's not like we weren't attacking. The midfield didn't play that great in the first half. It's not
No.
like the team played bad, but the midfield wasn't clicking, and you could see, because we lost a lot of the balls in the midfield, and the goal ended up becoming, a goal scored by, debuting Randall Colomwani, former Eintracht Frankfurt striker. We beat the crap out of him in the Champions League a couple of years ago, but he came out and got his first goal and it started with a turnover in the midfield. So the
from
midfield
from the
battle was
vodka,
won
right?
from Lobotka, from a midfielder. So
Yeah.
there, just watching the highlights back over again, you could see there were two or three instances where the midfield, turned the ball over, and Juve were, unlucky to capitalize on some of theirs. I mean, there was the one Meret save in the 5th minute, which was magnificent, by the way.
Oh
Huge,
yeah,
huge save.
top notch, top notch.
And you never know where the game goes if that goes in. You know what I mean? Last week it worked in our favor against Atalanta because we responded, but you
Right,
never know how we respond if that goes
right,
in. So that was big.
right.
So,
And
and
that was
guys like
within the first 5 minutes
that
of
was
the
within the
game.
first
So,
five
like,
minutes,
you're right.
right?
That can
Right.
certainly condition, the match, and you don't know whether or not this is going to go into Napoli's head. It might affect their performance or whatever. Maybe they get some frustration, but yeah, that it was the shot from Yildiz, I believe, and Meret's
Yeah,
out was, he's such an unsung hero this year. Maybe not so much here on the rant, but in general. But yeah, I think despite even giving up a goal in the first half, I think that save in general, helps kind of keep Napoli's mentality into the game. But go on, Rafa.
absolutely. No, well, and then one more thing I want to point out, as far as the first half goes, is, we had a few really good chances. We did. We had a shot wide from Lobotka. We had a shot wide from Politano. Anguissa missed a header by inches.
Mm,
And big huge shout out to guys like Spinazzola and Politano on the wings. Were just kind of keeping this first half going. I don't think I've ever seen a better game out of those two players,
Raffa, I think this was Spinazzola's best game so far this season for
especially
Napoli.
Spinazzola. Yeah, I was just going to say, especially Spinazzola.
He was definitely the man of the first half for me. We're going to get
Yes.
into our beast of the match later. Spinazzola certainly gets a nod, but it was one of his best games, I think, especially the first half, because he was pocketing attackers. He was controlling the ball in the midfield. He was setting up chances for our wingers and our attackers. I think he just had a solid game, and the fact that he is there to substitute an injured Oliveira, as well as Juan Jesus in the center back, with Kvara leaving this team, I mean, kind of high and dry, we're still able to produce this results. But Spinazzola is beast-worthy performance. Just the first half alone,
Right.
It was just impressive to see, and I was happy for him, and I was happy for the team because it just it kind of validates that feeling that everybody's buying in, and when it comes to these big moments and these big games, we're gonna step up no matter what, and it was just a good thing to see, I think.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And like I said, it was I would say it was as even as it could be in the first half, maybe despite the midfield for Napoli, until the goal was scored by Colomani, which was a big mess. You know, like you mentioned, the Lobotka error causing the turnover, causing the play by Juventus, and Juan Jesus lackadaisically coming back. And if he had come back a little bit faster, Colomani might have been called offside, but he wasn't. There was calls for a foul on Anguissa at the top of the key over there for um um but not, nothing came of it, and that was right after Anguissa missed the header from across. And 1-0, we're down 1-0 going into to halftime. But Ralph, I wasn't really nervous, man. Like, I was with the Tri-State Napoli Club at Pizzatiello. Thank you also, by the way, to Matteo Bonetti for shouting us out
Shout
on the
out,
air. That was
loved it.
very cool. I appreciate that. But Ralph, Gianluca and myself were like just, I think, the only two that weren't that very nervous. I mean, my dad's always optimistic, but like everyone else was very, very nervous about the outcome. Very nervous about what would happen. And for some strange reason, Gianluca and I were like, nah, I'm not nervous. I think we got it in the second half. We come out the way we played, and the midfield just does a little tweak here and there. We'll be good.
I'm with you. I didn't see some detrimental performance from Napoli, like they weren't going to be in this game at all. Like that goal, just circling back to Juan Jesus, and I know he's done some good things for the team. He's covering Buongiorno right now. He had an excellent game against Atalanta, even the one prior. But it's just like this one play that, I know he went to defend. He ended up kind of like on the touchline over there and just kind of moseyed his way back in. And our defense didn't do anything wrong. They were playing the offside trap. They may have just not noticed Juan Jesus not there in time. And they played the trap, which kind of left Muani wide open. And Juan Jesus doesn't come back in time. He has a wide open shot, and he gets his first goal. I don't know. Even though it did start from that Lobotka turnover, I think they tried to recover, and they almost had it. But Juan Jesus, again, just not there. And we botched some coverage, and it leads to the first goal. But I'm with you. I must have felt, even though I was down here in Queens, I wanted to come up so bad, but I had work to do and I couldn't make it. I probably felt you and Gianluca's spirit because the Discord was emotional. All right, invectives were flying, emotions were spewing. And it's the rant. We're therapeutic, so we kind of let it go. But then I came out. I was like, hey guys, let's collect ourselves here a bit. But I did step outside at halftime. I was like, I need some air. I went outside for a second. I was like, they're gonna come back. I felt it in my heart of hearts. So let me tell you, I put my money where my mouth is. I went on my betting app, and I see Napoli's odds to win the game was at plus 550, so it went up. And I was like, this is a good bet because they're going to come back without doubt. So I took the bet. Hey, listen, $5-10. I don't do much here, guys. I was just for fun, entertainment value. And I won the bet, obviously, because so my money was where my mouth is. I felt in my heart of hearts after the game, I was like, they're going to go back into the locker room. Conte's going to give them a pep talk. They're going to calm it down a little bit, and then they're going to produce something in the second half. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened, Raffa, right?
You know what's too bad? You know what's too bad is that they don't give you any extra money for total domination of the second half. You know, like where's that bet? Where's that Juve gets nothing in the second half bet? You know,
Yeah.
because that's exactly what happened. I mean,
Right.
what a performance by Conte's men, Napoli, Anguissa, Politano, Spinazzola, Lukaku, McTominay, everybody, the defense just the Di Lorenzo, the defense just buckled down. The midfield got their shit straight. They allowed Juventus 0. And when I mean 0, when I say 0, I mean 0. And
Like
if
literally
you
zero.
all right, and if no one has seen the stat or the graphic from CBS or if no one has looked at any of the stats or anything like that or any you know on a site or what have you, they were all literally zeros. Zero expected goals, 0 shots on target nonetheless. You know, zeros across the board.
Mm-hmm.
Juve had, and you know, I think what they said was 17% possession by the time Napoli hit the penalty to go up 2-1.
Yeah.
They worked themselves back up to a 40% possession in the second half. I'm sure that was because after it was 2-1, we sort of buckled down a little.
Yeah.
But a little, not that much,
Not a
because
lot.
we kept going for it, right? I mean,
In the
what?
Discord, it was our best defense is going to be offense, right? And
Yeah.
it seems as if like that was happening. But my biggest my biggest takeaway from the beginning of that second half is that I saw Napoli calmer, you know, disciplined. They were taking their time. They were maintaining possession, moving forward, setting up their chances. They were way more decisive, in my opinion, in the second half than they were in the first half. And I think the little mistakes that were going on, Conte said, just forget about it, put it behind you. It's only 1-0. We have a whole half. We're here at home. The crowd is electric. Let's take all that in. Let's stay disciplined and let's produce a result. And that's exactly what happened. And honestly, that's exactly what I thought was going to happen. I was confident enough, especially after these couple games, that Napoli was going to come out of that locker room with a new plan, because it seems like that's what Conte does. And look at the results. Did you see anything different?
Oh
Right
yeah.
off of that, Raffa?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, like I said, the midfield was much more put together.
Definitely.
The total team chemistry was a lot better. And again, not knocking the first half chemistry. Just there were a couple of mistakes made by the midfield that won by Juan Jesus, but everything clicked. Everything. I mean, you could feel that at some point Napoli going to equalize this at the very least. And you know, it came in the form of Politano cross to Anguissa header, point blank range past Di Gregorio. But the work Politano put in to get that cross off too was just nothing short of phenomenal. And you know, he worked the whole game just like as hard as I've ever seen him work. I mean, I can't credit enough the performance from him and Spinazzola on the other side, and Lukaku too. Lukaku even getting getting his body in there to get the ball to Politano. Just it's been the theme of the season
Mm.
where we're a very physical team and we have so much energy, and I guess you can attribute that to being playing one game a week, and with a thin bench, it's easy to preserve your starters, and hopefully we can address that for next season. But like, you could tell Juventus played a game in the midweek. You know what I mean? And you could tell that at that point they were spent, because to get that one goal in the first half, they spent a lot of energy against a very high tempo Napoli.
Yeah.
And they just probably just ran out of gas, man. If I mean, look, certain guys like Locatelli and Coop Miners have been underwhelming. You know, the striker position's always been an issue.
Mm.
You know, you've got a guy like Weston McKennie in the back line instead of at the midfield, but he's versatile. But you got some tired guys out there. You know what I
Right.
mean? And I gotta say, like, Napoli outran, outsmarted, outplayed, outfocused, outmanned, out everything Juventus in the second half. And it again, I had the feeling at halftime that we would come back at least for a draw.
Hmm.
Um, but it was more and more evident that we'd get that draw as the time went on in the second half.
Can I ask you a question, Rafa?
Yeah.
Do you think that this was a question of fatigue, or it's just for Juve, or it's again because they I mean, granted they've been unbeaten, but they've been tying a lot of games. They haven't really been getting those 3 points as often enough. Is this a question of fatigue, or is just a question of Juve's play is just not as good as it should be, and maybe with the striker issue, it's causing some problems, or is it this, Napoli just coming out and handing it to them and playing really well? Like,
Well,
obviously, if we compare energy levels, maybe one can say that naturally Napoli would be more energetic considering they play less, but how much of this is attributed to the energy and how much is it attributed to a team's performance?
well, so
Or is it
we've
both?
s- we've s- I mean, the easy answer is all of the above,
Mm,
right? Because when you look at it, right, Juventus, they were unbeaten coming into this, but on 13 draws and 8 wins. That's not anything to write home about.
no.
It's not like there were 13 wins, 8 draws. Because if that were the case, they'd be up there with us. You know
Right.
what I
They're,
mean?
they're just not closing games, in my opinion.
Sure. I mean, the Juventus, the Conte's first team, the Juve that won the Scudetto in 2011, 12.
Hmm.
That team had 12 draws all season long, and they were unbeaten in Serie A when they won the Scudetto.
Right.
So,
I remember that.
they've already surpassed the amount of draws there. So the lack of being able to finish, because that's another thing. I think there was something about, oh, I don't remember the number. I think the number was high though, and I want to say I heard it from IFTV. It might have been Joe as well, Fischetti. The Juventus have a certain amount of points dropped from the lead position in a match, and it's like the most in history that they've ever had. And I think it's also the most in Serie A right now. Points Amount of points dropped when up, right?
Got you.
Um, and so yeah, there's a lot that falls on Thiago Motta's shoulders, Juventus's shoulders. Um, the fact that they play in the Champions League, they got a dismal 0-0 in the Champions League as well against Club Brugge over the past, in the
Hmm.
past week. But before that, they beat Milan handily, right? So
Hmm.
like, it's one of those things where they have the ability, they have the talent, they have the coach who can put up a performance like the one against Milan, but they tend to falter to a better team. Like I would argue that Napoli are a better team, 11 versus 11,
Right.
right? I'm not talking about depth, and I'm not talking about the bench. I'm talking about 11 versus 11, maybe 12 versus 12, because when you add the coach in there, right? I mean,
Sure.
there's
Sure.
nobody that beats Conte. But when I say all of the above, I really mean it, because it could be that plus Napoli are just so determined this season to win another Scudetto, as much as they won't address it, you
Mhm.
know. That's the goal here now, because we're now, I think, what, 14 points clear of fourth place, and you know, flying right now. I
Yeah.
mean, I know we still have Inter to worry about. I know they beat Empoli handily, and or whoever it was that they beat, Lecce, I think, handily at the weekend. But their schedule still is congested. So and against better opposition, they will falter. So there's a lot of factors in this match and how played out, Ralph. And I think all of the above is the right answer. Um, but I just think Napoli outworked Juventus in the second half, man, and
Yeah.
it has a lot to do with the fact that we had more gas than them as well.
Yeah. I mean, even towards the end of the game, everybody saw this play. I would call it almost like the exclamation mark on this Napoli performance against Juve, especially in the second half, was the Simeone diving header into the ground to try to get the ball to Anguissa.
Now,
I mean,
here's my question: Do
yeah.
you think that was intentional, or do you think that was like? Because I'm inclined to believe that was an intentional play. Like the way he the way he cocked his head back to like try to head the ball away from the feet. I
Hmm.
forgot who it was that he was at his feet, but it also looked as if he was like fouled. I don't want to say fouled because they didn't call a foul, but like trying to get up but couldn't get back up, and sort of was about to land on the ball. So maybe as he was going down, he knew the ball was there, so he like tried to move the ball with his head. I don't know.
I
Like, as far as intentional goes, like, you think that was an intentional play?
it could, yes, is my short answer, in the sense that I think he now did it start off that way? I don't know. And then within a millisecond, he decided that this was going to be a pass. But I think he saw the ball on the ground, and listen, Anguissa was right there. He was in his line of vision. He was almost right in front of him, maybe like what, 4 feet, 5 feet, whatever it was, a yard or
Yeah.
so. Um, and I think he was trying to maintain that possession and give the ball back to Anguissa, because there was a little space between Anguissa and Simeone. And I think Simeone saw the ball and he dove into the ground. I mean, it looked as an intentional as it can be, and he was trying to make something out of nothing. And I'm gonna give him the yes also, because despite his limited minutes, every time Simeone comes onto the field, he is giving something. He is
Mm.
giving work ethic at the very least. Maybe he won't put in a goal every time or what have you, but he is working hard on the field to disrupt the back line, to press the defenders, to try to win the one-on-ones, or try to draw fouls, try to maintain possession, try to help his team, maybe even put in another goal to set up plays, kind of like what Lukaku does, but in his own way. So, yes is my answer to you, Raffa. As far as intent, I think that was completely intentional. Whether or not he decided that on the fly remains to be seen. But at some point, he decided that he was going to try to head that ball to make a pass to Anguissa to maintain possession. So,
I agree with that. I agree
yeah,
with that. I just it happened so quickly that you have to watch the replays on that. But
right.
but it shows you, like you said, it shows you the bot, like this bench is bought in. Like, they've bought into the Conte system. We were talking about possibly getting rid of Simeone at the summer, getting rid of Raspadori in the summer. Like, these are guys that weren't featuring and we weren't finding place for, and they're still on the team. Not only are they still on the team, but when they're coming on the field, Raspadori's getting a match-winning goal. Simeone's putting in a full shift. You see Ngong coming in, almost scoring another goal too at the end of the match. You see guys like Philip Billing on the sidelines getting just acting as if he's been on the team since the summertime.
Right.
You
Yeah.
got guys like Gilmore coming in, doing his thing. You got guys that are coming off this bench that are playing. You guys look no further than Juan Jesus, Spinazzola, David Neres. These are guys that weren't starters at the beginning of the season, and now for whatever reason, Kvara leaving, injuries, these guys are now starting matches, and they're pulling off performances of their careers, and it's all down to Antonio Conte getting these players to buy into the system and to believe that together we're winning the Scudetto. And some of those guys on the bench are going to become two-time Scudetto winners. Like, that's pretty impressive with a Napoli team, that everybody talks about, finished in 10th place last season, was heading in no direction. It looked very bleak, and all of a sudden here we are, like, winning these kind of games, and you're getting help from everybody on every which angle, and what was it? Even Raspadori. I mean, he hasn't really done much since the goal he scored, but but remember the video from last week coming back from, like, with the
On the bus.
fans greeting
On the
on the
bus.
bus, and him saying mandalo a Kvara,
Yeah.
like,
Fra drogas.
send this to Kvara, show Kvara this. And it was the day after he left, like, why would a guy who's trying to leave, or why would a guy who's rumored to leave say that, say that to his fellow teammate? Send this to Vada. Let's see how he feels now.
Yeah.
To me, it sounds like this whole team is bought into the system, and there we are. And McTominay not having the greatest of matches, gets in there to get a foul to cause the penalty kick,
Yeah.
and then Lukaku puts it in like it's nothing, no pressure, just
that McTominay's effort, even if he's not scoring a goal, him being in the box, causing disruption, drawing those fouls, again, it's this willingness to win and do whatever needs to be done. And to respond to Raspadori leaving, Raffa, I don't know what the summer transfer market's going to look like. We'll see, but I don't think Raspa goes anywhere else this January. Even Simeone.
No, me neither.
I don't think they leave. I think
and there's a few days left of this market. It's not like there's a lot of time.
We still got to make a signing. I agree 100% there, but I don't think we give up much more, because we a lot of people already have exited. I don't think we can give up that many more players right now. We'll see in the summer market. If we regroup, we'll look to see what we need. We look to see what we can unload. But for now, we need a little bit of reinforcement, and I think we're done. Maybe one, maybe two other players. We'll probably get one, but it's got to be at the right price, guys. The $70 million price tags, we don't hit those price tags in especially in January. I mean, maybe we'll hit it in the summer, but definitely not hitting it in January. I know OCM's value at the time and all that shit's questionable, but I think what you see is what you get, with the addition of maybe one other player in mid-season here. So, man, there's a lot to take in, but overall, to see Napoli just adjust, get their heads back in the game, and get the win, to me, finally, we saw the team. It's bought in. I mean, we saw Di Lorenzo and Politano celebrating at the end there, and it's good to see Di Lorenzo there, because remember, in the beginning of the season, this is a guy who also wanted an exit.
Mm-hmm.
This is a guy who was upset. I mean, this was a team that was just upset for whatever reason, and has now kind of let bygones be bygones, put all that behind them, and are now performing. So, with the exception of Kvara leaving, I think he put his cards out on the table. But everybody else seems to say, okay, I'm buying in. Let's do this. And it's working.
It is working. It is working. Really quickly, I wanted to point out the midfield, man. Like, even though they started off so kind of so like not as good in the first half, to get to get a goal by Anguissa and essentially an unofficial goal contribution, in the sense that McTominay drew the foul for the penalty. It just shows you how great this midfield has become. One of the best in Italy, maybe one of the best in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what do they have now? 16 goal contributions in total? You know?
Yeah, all together between assists
16 total. Anguissa 5 goals, 3 assists. Lobotka 0 goals, 1 assist. McTominay 5 and 2.
Yeah.
That's 16 contributions in 22 games. And we're talking about the season that we won the Scudetto with Spalletti. You know, the midfield combined had 22. You know, so we're what, 7 away, 6 away from tying that record in, and we're like, we got like 14 games left. You know, Ancelotti's second place team only had 19. I mean, this is a great midfield, and it's rejuvenated midfield, because remember last year, you know, just was dismal, and Conte did it, you know.
Yeah, and he did it within half a season, and that's the impressive part. I don't know how, you know, easy or hard it is to do that, but he did do it, and we're seeing the results manifest like right before our eyes, Raffa, and the improvement in Anguissa. We've always been Anguissa fans here, guys, on the Napoli
all the
Rant.
time. Yeah, he got a beast his first appearance.
Yeah, even on his worst days, we've always supported him, and big Lobotka fans. I know, you know, Lobotka had kind of an underwhelming performance that first half. He made some mistakes, but this is a guy. Lobo's a guy that if he makes a mistake every now and then, like, I forgive him, because every other time he's practically perfect.
Yeah.
But he came back to, he settled down, and they were able to kind of take control again. And again, we win the game because of it. So I can forgive any mistakes in the first half because of that second half and the complete 180 that they made. So it's just good to see. And again, it's good to see that they are mature enough to just kind of let it go, and from one half to the next become a completely different team. So, and produce a result. I'm very impressed by that, Raffa.
Same here, my friend.
I think we got to give a beast, man. We're coming almost to the end of the show here, Raffa.
We got to get a beast going.
Well, I think this week's beast, Raffa, is going to start with a little story that I wanted to kind of tell everybody, if that's all right.
Have it.
I can just have the mic. So this story is a little. It kind of relates to our beast, because when I saw this, it's the story that came to my mind, and it's a little historical one. So for those of you who are history buffs out there, you know, listen in. I'll probably cue in some music right now. But my story starts in ancient Greece, right? Which is a great setting because we are the Parthenopeia, right? But this story starts in ancient Greece, and it starts on the beaches of Marathon. For those of you that are runners out there, or you do triathlons, and this, you might like this one, because it's where the concept of a marathon came from. But the story goes that the Persians were trying to invade Greece, and they had a lot of boats. They had a lot of troops, right? And they were coming by way of like some type of amphibious assault to the beaches of Marathon, and they wanted to walk their way into Greece, right? Now, the Greek general, he was afraid that they were going to lose this fight, because he wanted to go to the Spartans and say, hey, we need your help. But the Spartans were celebrating something, and it wasn't like a full moon, so they couldn't come. And so they knew that they were going to be outnumbered, and it was going to be a big fight. And they also knew that if they lost this fight, the Persians would have walked straight into Athens and destroyed the city. They would have murdered their citizens and all kinds of bad things. So before they went to the fight, the general's like, if you don't hear from us by a certain time, I want you to burn down Athens and run away. Leave the Persians nothing to plunder. Leave them nothing. Burn it all down and run away. If you don't hear from us. Because the odds were against us. The Greeks won the fight. They won the battle at Marathon against the Persians. But they still had this message to the Athenians about burning down the city. And they won. They didn't want that to happen now. So they went to this guy named Philip. And Philip was a long distance runner. And they said, Philip, we need you to run to Athens and tell them that there's victory here and to stay in Athens. Don't burn down the city. Stay there. We beat the Persians. You have to run. The distance between Marathon and Athens was 40 kilometers or about 25 miles, which is similar to modern day marathons, which are pegged at 26. But the concept comes from this, right? So beach is a marathon, 25 miles. Philip.
This is where we get the term marathon.
That's where we get the term marathon. Philip ran 40 kilometers. He ran about 25 miles nonstop. He was a long distance runner. He gets to the Acropolis, steps to the Acropolis and said, victory was ours. Victory was ours. Don't burn down the city. He sends that message. And then right after that, Raffa, he collapses and he dies. He dies on the steps of the Acropolis to deliver the final message to the Athenians not to burn down the city because we beat the Persians.
That's amazing.
So that's the story. So without further ado, guys, our beast of the match for Napoli Juve. Here we go, Raffa. E per Napoli, la bestia della gara, con il numero 21, Matteo Politano. Guys, I'm sorry, Raffa.
No.
We all know what I'm talking about. I think
it makes the most sense. It makes the most sense.
Listen, Matteo Politano, towards the end of the game, and he gets so much flack, this guy, right? About his offense and this and that, and his kicks and his little cut-throughs and whatever. This guy dispossesses Muani right by the touchline there and lets out a roaring fist pump, almost as if he scored a goal, according to Matteo Bonetti, and then turns around and collapses. He dies right at that moment, man, on the field. He gave everything. It was almost as if that fist pump was the last bit of energy he had left, and he let out that roar to the crowd and dies on that field because he gave everything that game, including an assist, a beautiful, perfectly sent cross to the head of Anguissa, who wanted that goal probably more than anybody on that team that day, and gets the goal. Raffa, da brividi.
Yeah.
That moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned Politano's cross to Anguissa. The referee's not calling anything against Anguissa all first half. That must have felt so good for him to get that goal, but also for Politano to get the cross off. And also, when you talk about that specific dispossession of Kolo Muani at the end of the game, where your story was originated from, note that he went into the tackle with a slide tackle, did not commit a foul, did not get the ball on the slide tackle, got up and still challenged Kolo Muani for the ball, and ended up winning the ball. And just, I think there's not much else to say about Politano's performance, because it's been said in that story, it's been said the whole show, and everybody watching could see how that was a beastly performance of all beastly performances from Matteo Politano. So kudos to him. Great shout to Spinazzola too, though. I mean, if it wasn't for Politano's performance, Spina would have been the beast, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. This was a
Just
back and forth, Raffa, in the Discord between like Spinazzola, Politano, and even a little bit of Anguissa in there. These were the names that kept popping up, but the one name that was repetitive and consistent was Matteo Politano. So I was like, he's influencing people, and this is a guy that people give him shit a lot, and I know he's not the prettiest player. He doesn't, he doesn't contribute the most goals and things like that, but no matter what, he is putting in the work to help this team. And that is the current philosophy for Napoli right now. It's just put in the work, and we'll see the results. Be disciplined out there.
perfect. Ralph, before we wrap up, I have one last rant
Yes.
to give
Well,
and address. I have one more thing to address to one Kvara. Then I'd like to close the chapter
okay.
and put this to bed.
It's time,
Okay.
Raffa, and I'm glad. When you told me you wanted to do this, I was like, let's go for it, because as much as we love and respect the guy, we always will here on the Napoli Rant, but it's time to put this to bed and to move forward. So, guys, to settle in. Don't click that exit button, because Raffa has a rant, and we're gonna end the show like that today. So, Raffa,
Raff
it's all-
Bizzarro,
the stage is
my
all yours.
rant today is towards one Kvara, who had his first appearance for PSG on the weekend. Actually, not long after the Napoli game against Juventus. And he got the start, and he got himself an assist, and good for him. But then he got himself subbed off. And this son of a bee, right? This son of a bee that I gave so much props to, that I gave the benefit of the doubt to, that I gave the understanding of him wanting to leave, that's fine, blah, blah, blah. Praise for his Scudetto, all that stuff. When he got subbed off, he came off on the same side of the bench. He gave a 5 to the player that was replacing him. It escapes me right now. I forgot who it was.
Mm-hmm.
And he gave a 5 to Luis Enrique, his new manager. And every single time he was subbed off by Conte, he went off on the opposite side. He didn't give anybody a 5. He didn't go see his manager. None of that. Unless maybe he scored a goal in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But to see that, I was actually enjoying watching him play for Paris, because he was doing pretty well. And we all wished him very well over there. And now he's happy. He's got his money. He's playing good. He's got an assist. He's getting in there. He's moving to the middle. He's this and that. Great. But when I saw that substitution happen, and he come off on the side and dap his friends up and the new manager, it infuriated me to no end. Now, I know he's on a new team, and I know it's a new environment, and I know it's new players, and I know it's a new feeling and all that stuff. But to me, personally, nobody else might feel like this, but to me, I felt like it was a slap in the face to Napoli, to Conte, to everybody, every one of his teammates, that he did that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If you're gonna, it just to me showed. Now, I didn't expect anything less, but when it happened, I got like real heated. That's a new team. That's a new, you're in front of your home crowd. You had an assist. I'm pretty sure, if he didn't do that, he'd be ridiculed and talked about. But it just pissed me off so much that I now would like to never speak Kvara's name again on this show, unless we're doing some sort of a history reference. Thank you, Kvara. Ciao. Good luck. I have nothing left to give to Kvara. And that's it.
Amen. 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 Kvara, not here
Nothing left to
anymore.
give. Nothing left to give.
Raf. And to put the cherry on the cake here, Conte was asked in the interview, right, post game Juve, about Kvara, and there was somebody, I think, who was next to Conte was like, "Why this is not a post game Napoli Juve? Why are we talking about Kvara?" And the journalist gave his reasoning, and Conte said, "We're not here to wish ill will on anybody. He made his choice. We thank him, but when he heard that they were looking to get to this team now for months, Conte didn't like that.
That's another thing that pissed me off, Ralph. That is another thing that pissed me off. Conte
took the blame. He took the blame. He stood up and said, "My fault. I couldn't convince the guy. My fault."
Yeah.
But when you're sitting there negotiating for months, that's not right. You can't. You shouldn't do that. So, for whatever it's worth, man, I think Conte put that to bed, and so did you, Raffa. Right now.
Yeah, I laid it to rest. It's over. We're done talking about him. We move on because we have a fourth Scudetto to win.
Yeah, right. So avanti così, Forza Napoli. Let's hope we get a good signing. But if not, let's hope for this continued form because it's we still got games to play. We still got a league to win. It's anybody's league, in all honesty. But Napoli now truly, to me, are contenders. They're the team to beat right now. My opinion.
That's true, my friend. That's very true.
All right. So there it is, folks. Raffa, great show as always.
Thank you, sir. Roma 2:45 on Sunday. That's at the Olimpico. So it's a big one. It's another big one. But, we're on this run, man. I don't know. I don't see us dropping any more points unless it's like to Inter in March, which would be
March 2nd, which we might.
That's heating up to be the match of the season. That's going to be the Scudetto decider right there, man.
Yeah, I think that's the championship game, Rafa. And who knows?
At the Maradona, too.
Might be a few of us at the Maradona that day. Oh, we got something brewing. Don't
talk too loud. We don't know yet.
Working it out. All right.
Working it out.
Well, anyway, guys, if you're not in the Discord already, I don't know what you're waiting for. Just come in. All right. I'm sorry. You can stay in your WhatsApp chats as well. That's fine. But come into the Discord as well. Again, great group of people. Lots of fun. Great watch party. As always, they're packed. And the game thread is crazy for those who can't. And it's just a good chat to talk Napoli and to get some insight on the team without all the toxic drama that you kind of see on Twitter and so on and so forth. But until then, Raffa, Forza Napoli sempre.
Forza Napoli sempre.
Ciao, guys.
Ciao, ciao.